Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
One of the takeaways from this budget is the Modi government view on agriculture. Now, it is very interesting because Modi government has been promising to double the farmers' income. Initially, it looked like it was a promise in the 2016 Independence Day speech, so should have been a bit earlier, but it was later shifted to 2022. Now, 3 years have gone past, or 2.5 years have gone past, another 2.5 years remain to that financial year. There is no way on earth the farmers' income can be doubled relative to 2017 in 2022, because contrary to agricultural growth, in fact, the sector that has really suffered under the Modi government in its first term is agriculture. Agricultural growth in Modi government's first term was just 2.9%, whereas in UPA's second term it was 4.3%. In fact, if you look at the entire UPA period and NDA period, agricultural growth in NDA period is about a half of what happened under the UPA. Now, what is the answer? You thought the answer would be one, to modernize agriculture, to bring new technologies, to bring new seeds, new engineering, new irrigation. There is talk about irrigation, and also to take agriculture closer to economics. On the other hand, what you see is a grand idea of taking India's agriculture away from science and technology. So I repeat, instead of bringing India's farm and agriculture closer to economics, this idea is to take it away from science and technology. So this reverses a lot of thinking of the past 50 years or so. So what is this idea? This is zero budget farming, or what is sometimes called, or more aptly called, zero budget natural farming. What that means is the farmer uses what's available in nature and does farming without having to buy fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, and all the stuff you spray for other pathogens, including funguses and nematodes or worms. Now, it's a grand idea, but does it work? Also, for a population of farmers that's been waiting for something to revolutionize their agriculture, you are not telling them we will revolutionize it, but by taking you backwards by 2000 years at least to Vedic farming. Vedic farming could be 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 40,000 years, God knows how many millennia. Now, I am not poo-pooing the idea. Organic farming is an idea whose time has come, but it's an idea whose time has come where the markets are willing to pay the price for organic products. So around the world there is organic farming, but it is justified by people being willing to pay a higher price for organic products. But now to think that in this time and age you will convert India's farming predominantly into not just organic, but I will come to more details of this, a specific kind of organic is never going to happen. I do not believe that Narendra Modi and his ministers and others, whatever they believe in the cow, in the Vedic way of doing things, they cannot believe that this is a realistic thing to do. So what this means is, and the example that the minister has quoted and then is a farmer called Subhash Palekar, who's been written about in Vidarbha. In fact, today also there is a story in the Indian Express, but he's been written about in the past also. He's got a Padma Shri in the past. In fact, he has a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to him. He has 36 acres of farm, and he has pioneered a different kind of zero budget natural farming. What does he use? He uses a lot of cow product, cow dung, cow's urine, then with neem leaves and datura leaves and pomegranate leaves and guava leaves, he makes these concoctions to fight insects and pesticides. Does not use vermicompost because he says these worms are foreign breeds. They are foreign strains, they are brought in from Europe, and so they absorb heavy metals and contaminate my soil. So this is really pristine, clean Vedic soil. And he claims that he has succeeded in with this method in his 36 acres. Now, well and good, possibly he has succeeded, maybe he has great productivity also, but if that is the case, if this is such a brilliant idea, then why aren't more farmers doing it? In fact, if the government is serious about this, then government should really bite the bullet, as they say, and say, okay, you guys don't need fertilizers, that's what we think. You guys don't need chemical fertilizers and you don't need pesticides and insecticides. So what am I doing? I'm not banning chemical fertilizers. You can use them if you want to. But the subsidy that I now give through fertilizer companies on these chemical fertilizers, I am not giving to them. In fact, I am giving no subsidy on chemical fertilizers. Let the prices go up, but this 80-90,000 crore rupees that goes every year as fertilizer subsidy, I will just transfer it to farmers on the basis of how many acres of land they have. Then the farmers can decide whether they want to buy, spend this on buying fertilizer at full price, unsubsidized price, or do Javik farming or zero budget farming. This is an option that you have to leave for the farmer. Let us see how this works. Not just that, then you do some other things. Then you say, I will charge for water. Now, there's an article that we ran on ThePrint from Bloomberg by David Fickling that tells you that 90% of India's fresh water is consumed by India's agriculture. Why? Because it's inefficient. Zero budget farming will not make it any less, because in any case, Indian farmer does not pay for water, does not pay for power, and that is behind so much of the crisis in our farming as well as our water tables. This government has made water a big project for itself. So think about it. This Bloomberg article shows you that 3030 liters of water is consumed to produce every kilo of rice, which may be exported. Another 1500 liters for every kilo of meat that may be exported. A lot for sugarcane. So in fact, when they do a calculation of India's agricultural exports and India's total exports, they say that among all countries in the world, India has the highest percentage of water consuming goods that are exported, and a bulk of that is agriculture. So think about it. If a kilo of basmati that is exported amounts to exporting 5,000 liters of water, how much water is being exported when India exports 5 million tons of rice, of high quality rice, mostly basmati? So there is need to marry, that's why we say there is need to marry economics with agriculture. If you charge for water, if you charge for power, it will automatically persuade the farmer and the trader and the business system to move to other commodities, more value added, more profitable, less water consuming, maybe less fertilizer consuming also. But if you just say, I'm going far back, and it's a nutty idea. We know that this government has a big commitment to the cow, and they've set up a ministry which it's called Ministry for Animal Husbandry, Dairying, Fisheries, etc. But really it's a ministry for cow welfare under three famous Gaurakshaks. Giriraj Singh from Bihar, then Sanjeev Balyan from Western UP, and Pratap Chandra Sarangi from Odisha. But if you do this kind of zero budget farming, where everything is based on what cow produces, not just any cow but desi cow, the Indian old variety, then it doesn't come for free, because rearing cows costs a lot of money. Most of our desi cows have very little yield, unlike the jerseys and the other hybrids, and even many of the Indianized hybrids developed by National Dairy Research Institute and others. Desi cow, I mean, if you are going to rear millions and tens of millions of cows only for dung and urine, for this zero budget farming, those cows will not be reared for free. Farmers will have a cost on rearing those cows. Nobody will collect all that dung and urine and spray it, convert it into compost, convert it into other cocktails with these leaves. You have to collect these leaves. Nobody will do it for free. There will be labor costs and it will be very labor intensive. So to think that this will be zero budget or this will be done for free is ridiculous. It's never going to happen, and if anybody believes that it's going to happen, he or she is fooling India's farmers, and farmers are not easily fooled. That's why examples like this have remained boutique examples. You might say 100,000 farmers in India are using zero budget farming already, but 1 lakh farmers in India is very few farmers. Look at the state of Indian farming. Now, David Fickling in this article said 90% of India's fresh water is consumed by agriculture. Indian figures, that is Central Water Commission, latest figure says 78%. So it's anything between 78 to 90%. 90% is our global figures, international organizations, FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization. Now, agriculture in India produces at this point only 14.4 or 6% of India's GDP. That little. Agriculture employs at this point anything between 44 to 47% of Indian labor force. The last National Labour Survey, Labour Ministry figures show it as 47%. I think ILO shows it at 44%. So 44 to 47% Indians are involved in a profession or in a pursuit that only gives them 14.5% of India's GDP. Now, sometimes when we look at figures, we interpret them as it suits us. So, if agriculture is going down as a percentage of national GDP, it does not mean agriculture is declining. Agriculture is still growing. Even now, when it's growing more slowly than it was under the UPA, it is still growing. It is just that other things, manufacturing, services, they are growing much faster. So, as a percentage of the economy, agriculture is becoming less. India is no longer an agriculture dominated country. It is no longer an agricultural economy. That is the gain we have had for 25-30 years of reform and progress, and that is what has made us a global power. At the same time, India's agriculture has not declined. What is needed on the other hand is to take more people away from agriculture and move them into other avocations. Look at China. People moved into Shanghai, Beijing as the cities were being built, other cities along the coastline, elsewhere, because it is now proven by global experience that when people move from agriculture, the first thing they move to is construction. So, once again, I am tempted to say that agriculture is the big new jumla. This not agriculture, but doubling of the promise of doubling the farmer's income. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the next 3 years. And this kind of let's go back to our so-called roots is never going to happen, because when this agriculture was practiced, India had very little population. Today, it's much bigger population. The needs of this population are bigger. And this population you cannot demand that this population also lives frugally, which means all of us have to go back to our villages, do a little farming for ourselves, have a couple of cows, they will give us dung and urine, do your labor yourself, eat what you produce and be happy. India has moved and the world has moved way beyond that. So, having said that, what is it that will make Indian farming grow? I said earlier that you have to make sure that your industry, your ancillaries increase, so the farmers' profitability and productivity increases, and also more and more people who are caught up in farming, not because they are particularly needed or they want to do it, but because there is nothing to do. That is underemployment or begar. There should be opportunity for them to move up the value chain. Having done that, you have to invest in research and development. You have the lessons of the green revolution within our own country. This was brought about by a great collaboration of forward-looking politicians, starting with Lal Bahadur Shastri and C. Subramaniam, then Indira Gandhi, and Indian and foreign scientists, Dr. Norman Borlaug, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. M.S. Randhawa. All these titans got together to give us the gift of green revolution. There is no need to turn the clock back on that. There is need to go forward from that, to learn the lessons from that and go forward. But see this budget. How much of India's agricultural GDP, agri GDP, not the entire GDP. That means the entire value of your agricultural production. So what percentage of India's agricultural GDP does this budget allocate to agricultural research? It's only 0.37%, about 1/3 of 1%. That's all, 0.37%. How much does America spend? 2% of its agricultural GDP. India's total spend on agricultural research and development comes to just about $1 billion. I know we prefer to say crores, but since Nirmala Sitharaman used a lot of millions and billions, I would say about $1 billion, about 7,000 crores. The research budget of just Bayer, one company, one multinational company that does a lot of seed and other agricultural products research, is $2.4 billion. Bayer also owns the supposedly evil Monsanto now. So one company in the world spends 2.5 times of what we, a large economy, spends on agriculture, agricultural research. And what do? We don't match that research, or we don't match it with our own homegrown science and technology, but then we start opposing anything that comes from outside, and in the process many NGOs and activists actually make a living purely opposing Bayer and Monsanto. So there is need for India now to invest a lot more in agricultural research, development, new seeds, India's homegrown seeds. See the basmati rice, see sugarcane. Sugarcane has increased your yield from 9 to about 11.5%. Basmati, you were short of basmati, you are now exporting 5 million tons of rice every year. I spoke with eminent expert in agricultural economics, Professor Ashok Gulati, to exchange thoughts and get some facts on these issues. So this is not all conjured up from my imagination. That is what we need to focus on, and once again be realistic. There is no way in 5 years, in any 5 years, you can double the farmer's income. If you are doing that, then you are leading the farmer up the garden path, even if it's a garden path paved with Gau Mutra and pristine Gau Gobar and stuff like that. This will in fact ensure that India's agriculture does not even grow at any rate faster than it has done over the past 5 years.